Hello everyone, welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. As promised, I'm going to continue to try and read questions. Continue to try. Yep, as questions come in through Facebook, through Patreon, Jolene's going to collect them and get them to me. Of course, every other week we're doing the live broadcast. But in between, I still want to keep up with your guys' questions. You're footing the bills. And you might as well pull what opinions and editorializing out of my head that I've got. So, what I've got for today is I've got to look at some current events, and then I'm going to get into some more of your questions. So, buckle up, stay tuned, and let's get to it. Today's drink is a Jack and Coke because it's cold and it's hot outside. It's a hot mess, but not the kind of hot mess that I like. Alright, so today we had some wild stuff going on. I want you to check in the description down below. There should be a link to a video by Silver Fortune. He did a great job of laying out what happened in precious metals today, or rather Wednesday, which is yesterday. It's late, I'm tired, I'm whipped, I'm beat, but today was an amazing day in precious metals. Silver dropped over 4%. It was massive. We haven't seen it this low in years and years. And why am I happy? Because we're getting closer to the moment of truth. What is the bottom on silver? I don't know. What I do know is that I have to get some business done so I can go out and get some more of the stuff. What is happening is not unprecedented. It is expected. It is something I predicted. And I think in past videos I've talked about silver going down to $12, maybe $10. Hell, it could go to zero for all I care. But then you're saying, John, why are you investing in it? Why are you buying physical precious metals? The reason is because everyone is being herded like a bunch of cats. Right now they're being chased out of emerging markets, developing markets, countries like Turkey. They're being chased out of India. You see, it's not just the US that is fucked up. All nations are completely fucked up. They're in debt, they're insolvent, and so for a while, people thought the smart money was to go offshore, go to foreign corporations that are developing in foreign nations. Well, guess what? The whole system is corrupt, the whole system is beat, and so that money is making a beeline back to the United States. People are running out of everywhere they can. They're running like mad. In fact, right now they're running into the US dollar. The dollar is skyrocketing. I really did expect it to go down to 80. Well, it's getting closer to 100, right? It is fascinating to watch because I'm watching everything as a spectator, right? Do I have skin in the game? Fucking A right, I've got skin in the game, but the game is being played. You know, I thought they'd run left, they're going to run right. That's fine because I know where the end zone is. Football analogy, I know what's going to happen with precious metals. They are going to tank. They've already done it. Now the trick is to buy all you can once you're prepared with food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. Once you've got all that, and if you invest in precious metals, and I am not a certified licensed bullshit investment artist, I'm just a guy. But I know what's going to happen. It's done this many times. It'll go down and then it's going to spring right back up. It's just how far down. Right? I've talked to people today who have bought, who are planning to buy a lot more. So the smart money appears to be going into precious metals. And it's not just us little guys. Billionaires, millionaires, gazillionaires, they're doing the very same thing. Because after an economic collapse, after a financial disaster, after a currency revaluation or reissuance, precious metals goes up. It is the way to preserve wealth in a system-wide systemic failure. So anyways, watch Silver Fortune's video. He does a great job explaining it. Right now, our prices are down on silver, but guess what they're doing in countries like Venezuela? 1 ounce of silver will feed your family for 6 months in Venezuela right now, at this very moment. Right now in America, 1 ounce of silver will get you a steak dinner just for you, not your spouse or your kids. Just one dinner, one meal, one good meal, but it's still just a meal. Interesting the difference, no? How about in India? Prices up. How about in Turkey? Prices are going way up. They don't want their currency. You see, once the currency collapses, nobody wants it. It collapses even further. And nobody else wants it. And it's a snowball domino from hell. That's what's going on in Turkey. You can't buy silver there fast enough. Right? You just can't. You can't get it. The price is shooting up. Safe haven. It's always been that way. Always. Right? Nobody's going out there buying tulip bulbs right now. There are people buying Bitcoin, and they can have it. They can have it. I had an interesting video idea for Bitcoin, but I figured I'd skip it. You guys know your own shit. Okay. So another news story came out today. And there are many right now. Many that I've watched, read, seen. The mainstream media is starting to pull their pants up nice and tight. They're starting to talk about the whoopsie-daisies. They're starting to think about it. Right? This is this will also be, the link to this will be in the description down below. It's the MarketWatch.com article. Very short. The Dow just registered its longest stint in correction territory in nearly 60 years. Now, there really is, if you go to the article, I recommend it. It's very short. This is it, just a couple paragraphs. But it's got a cute picture of a bear reading the Wall Street Journal when lots of journalists and tourists taking pictures of it. Right? The bear market. So, the blue chip benchmark, that's the Dow Jones, failed to move 10% above the closing low hit earlier in the year. And it's something, according to this guy, and let me credit the article to Mark DeCambray. It's something that appears increasingly unlikely in current trade, meaning he doesn't think it's going to happen. It looks increasingly unlikely. And it spent the longest period in this correction territory, 131 trading days. And it hasn't been greater than that since 1961, almost 60 years ago. Now, what does this mean? Remember when we had the all-time high in February? And then we had a big plunge. That was called the correction. It hasn't come up 10% from that low. What does that tell us? Right? It's a huge indicator. It's still in correction territory. In other words, we haven't rebounded and come back out. Not to a significant degree. 131 trading sessions. The last record was 223, 1961. So, what is fascinating here is this is just one more indicator, one more sign that things aren't looking so fucking swell. Right? What's in your wallet? Bitcoin, cash, stocks, futures, options, puts, precious metals. All right. One last current event, then we'll get right into the questions. Trump pulled ex-CIA Director Brennan's security clearance. Now, there's a lot of questions or issues about security clearance. People go, well, when people leave the government, why don't they pull it right there? Well, the answer is there is so much military-industrial complex, jobs out there, private corporations that require security clearance in order to hire them because they're going to look at classified or top secret, right? National security interests held by corporations. So having that gets you a job. With what? With what? Who? Rockwell, Raytheon, McDonnell Douglas. Name your corporation that's in the defense industry. You need security clearance. Guess who Director Brennan can't work for anymore? Anyone like that. He can just stay at CNN and shoot his lips off. Now what's fascinating about this is that security clearance is extremely valuable. It's not just a resume enhancer, it gets you high-paying jobs. So why is this important? Why is this critical? Well, number one, I take great joy in knowing the prick has lost it. Because he is a communist. Registered communist. Likely voted communist if there was a commie on the ballot. Not to mention all of his sordid crap having to do with being a Muslim convert. And if he wants to practice being a Muslim, that's fine. I'm cool with that. But when you know what you know about Brennan, when you know what I know about Brennan, I don't like the fucking guy. He's extremely dangerous. Okay, so that's been pulled. So there had to be cause. Real cause. Things like this cannot be done on a whim or lawsuits that are started. Anyone can start a lawsuit over anything. You don't like my tone of voice? Sue me, right? No, this is a real deal. They have their reasons. Okay, so that's that. Let's get into some more questions from you guys. So James Moore asked a question, and it's a follow-up to the one where he asked, my family's going to be my enemy and shit hits the fan. He wanted some clarification. He said they would become the enemy if and when the time came that shit hits the fan and I had to turn them away. So he's not the enemy now. It'll be when he turns them away and shit hits the fan because they failed, right, to prep. He says, how can I get it into their minds now while they can actually afford and have access to things instead of relying on me when the time comes? The answer is succinct. And, brevity being the soul of wit, and sometimes I shoot my mouth off for hours, very succinctly, keep talking to them. Keep sending them articles, giving them information, telling them to look at the aggregate amount. Not any one thing is proof that shit is going to hit the fan. But when you take all the evidence and put it on the table, there's a lot of things pointing to shit hitting the fan. Politically, militarily, economically, ecologically, all kinds of shit going down. Okay. So Yankee Watchdog also has a follow-up. He says, I should have been more specific, and he was asking about the spraying from planes is intensifying some of the foul. He asked, are the spraying from planes intensifying the fires we're experiencing out here on the West Coast? Maybe as part of Agenda 2030 program? That's possible. I know the weather is hot and dry, and some firefighters are being found out as arsonists. But being a firefighter, I do believe that aluminum powder is highly flammable. Now, a lot of firefighters have been arrested for arson. Now, they're the proverbial bad apple. I don't hate firefighters. I don't dislike firefighters. In fact, I respect them. Right? They do a nasty job. I don't want to do that fucking job. But a lot of them, every one of them should have a psychological fucking profile done on them to find out if they like fire a little too much. And now we're seeing the consequences, additional consequences of that. But that being said, I don't got a problem with firefighters. They do a rough job. Right? They do. They do a rough job. So, he says, I should have been more specific. I was leaning towards chemtrails, not fire retardants. Because I talked about them dumping fire retardants. Now, chemtrails, the way powdered, finely pulverized nanoparticulate metals combust is that when they touch oxygen, they react with it. And the reaction creates heat, and then you get a chain. And this would be my layman's term, because I have a layman's mind with my understanding as this has come to me. How do rocket fuels work? Dry solid rocket fuels. It's oxidizing, mixing with air, and getting so hot and creating pressure, and then that heat is confined in a very small space, kind of like a combustion chamber in an engine. So it explodes with heat, catches fire. But it has to be it has to be dense. There has to be a lot of this material, combustible material or oxidizing material together for it to create enough heat where it can cause this conflagration. Now, the chemtrails way up there, when they first come out of the jet, that's some pretty thick shit. And I believe that, yeah, if it's got the metals, we're told, metals that oxidize rapidly, yeah, that can cause it. Now, if it's dispersed throughout the air where you can't see it, I don't think there's enough of it for that oxidizing process to create heat. But, I don't put anything past these pricks in charge. I really do believe that they want these fires to burn for the Agenda 2030 program. I don't know. But they get what they want out of it. They being the government. They being corporations that make money off of this. It's horrifying to me that human beings, other Americans, want bad things to happen so they can enrich themselves. Right? I don't want to do anything but protect myself, protect my family, protect my wealth. That's all I'm trying to do is protect myself and live my life, damn it. All right. Lisa B, 79 says, do you think it's possible that California firefighters are being used as scapegoats for the cause of the fire? I trust your opinion, but don't believe much of what I hear in the news. I don't blame you. I don't believe them either. But, to your point, are the firefighters being used as scapegoats? Yes, they are. I know that they'll come on the news and talk about, well, it was these arsonists, and they might have been firefighters, or they were firefighters, but it's the heat, it's the fuel, it's this, it's that. They're going to want to point to everything except the real cause and the real beneficiaries. The real cause? We're not taking care of our forests here. I do know that a lot of times, because I've seen it in my area, when a fire starts, they don't get on it quick enough. Other days, man, they're bam, bam, bam. Little smoke, it's out. But the one that got away is the one that makes a big fucking mess and destroys thousands of acres, pollutes the air, costs lots of money. Right? But I do believe that they're going to use everything as a scapegoat. Everything. All right. They don't want to take or accept responsibility. The buck stops, not in their lap. All right. The man that goes by the name Nobody Cares, who's been writing to me for years, I'm glad he's over here at Patreon. He says, hey, Prepper, thank you for all you're doing. You're welcome, sir. Previously, you stated that the chance for planetary change was 1 in a billion, and therefore we should not prep for it. I think the chance for major Earth change is 1 in 10. Would you like to revisit that idea? I'll do so briefly. The prepping I'm doing for the things that I believe, like economic crash, I believe we got a 1 chance in 1. It's a fucking done deal. World War III, I think the odds of that are 1 in 5. Political turmoil and potential social unrest and partisan war, I think we've got a chance of 1 in 2. The same preparatory steps I am taking for things that I can see, things that are beyond predictable, they're undeniably in the cards, are the same things I would do for a huge planetary change. The concept or idea of space debris hitting us, the Oort cloud just treating us like a pinball gallery, or pinball shooting gallery, it's possible. The concept of crustal displacement, or where the outside skin of the planet would spin over the molten core, I think that's possible. There appears to be evidence to support that. I believe it's possible. How does it happen? How quick does it happen? Is it like the movie 2012? Is it worse? Is it not so bad? Why were the mammoths frozen and found in Siberia have undigested food in their stomachs that should have rotted, being several feet inside of an animal, right? There should have been enough bacterial activity to keep that animal warm enough that that vegetation should have rotted, been digested by the bacteria. In fact, they have food in their mouths that didn't rot, but in their stomachs is where I really see the evidence. They froze so hard, so fast. It's kind of like the movie The Day After Tomorrow, right, where things just instantly fucking froze. There have been some cataclysmic changes that it's hard for us to understand because we're not experiencing it ourselves. It's possible. It really is. What are the odds? If I said 1 in a billion, that's 1 in a billion years. Well, if the Earth is supposedly, reputedly 4.5 billion years old, and it's happened 4 times, that's 1 in a billion. But one of these years, it's gonna happen again. It should happen again. It's hard to avoid it. You know, I mean, just an asteroid, 10 miles wide, it would be enough to cause a nuclear winter. The amount of energy released from the impact would really make life difficult. It's the same preparatory stance. But one of the things you can't do is know where it's going to happen, the severity, whether it's going to be too hot, too cold, whatever. The best you can do is get prepared and hope that you can grow your own food and hope that you can have livestock, chickens, rabbits, cats, dogs, whatever it is you're going to eat. Right? And there are people that are still eating cats and dogs today. I don't know if so much in America, but around the world. You're going to be a rancher, right? You're going to need enough food to keep them alive, and hopefully they keep you alive. It's a mess, but it is possible. So by revisiting it, I'm going to take my numbers down. I'm going to say the odds of a cataclysmic change to the planet in the next 100 years is 1 in 100. I think it could happen. You know, but I'm not going to do anything different because I don't have any evidence, any strong evidence to support the fact that it's coming, and I know what the problem is, and therefore I'm going to take some action that's very specific to that thing that could occur. Right? The idea of the outside peel of the Earth just spinning, you know, a global excursion, or the Earth just tumbling, into, you know, changing its rotational axis. Fuck, I don't know. I mean, that's just bizarre, wild, crazy stuff, and I don't want to experience it. Life is tricky enough with known factors. All right, Chris Santini says, did you notice the Three Stooges, Brennan, Clapper, and Comey have all gone radio silent at basically the same time? Do you think it's more than a coincidence? I don't believe in coincidences. Great question, Chris. And I did cover Brennan earlier, and I know your question came days ago. But yeah, they are STFUing, shutting the fuck up, right? Because they know that their balls are on the chopping block. They are under the microscope. You know, I want to see arrests. I want to see Hillary, Obama, Comey, Clapper, Brennan, Loretta Lynch. I want to see all the bad people. Even the ones whose names I can't pronounce and I'm not familiar with. If they've done some bad shit, I want them arrested. But yeah, when you've been read your rights, when you know you're a criminal and you're a bad guy, you shut your fucking mouth. And that may be why they've shut their fucking mouths. Oof. Rum and Coke. All right. Q8 Cooper. Not DB Cooper, but Q8 Cooper writes, and he's got a lot of stuff here. I've been thinking about mission statements of late. What is it that we intend to achieve as preppers? What are our goals, in other words? My goal is to survive. My goal, if the shit is the fan, isn't Captain Caveman, what the fuck, we're in the Stone Age, I can't believe that just happened. If it's not that, I would like to live the rest of my life. I would like to see my sons grow, marry, have children. So that would be my grandchildren. I'd love that. Basic life stuff. I would like to see what the future holds. And if it's a bright and brilliant and loving, honest, God-fearing, real future for humanity, or if we're going to be in some 1984 Orwellian hellish vision, dystopian crap, or Aldous Huxley's techno nightmare of crap. I don't know what's coming. I just don't know, but I want to be alive for it. That's my goal. Okay, it goes on. How should our mission statements change as we age? I believe that age, because I've been prepping since I was a teenager. Initially my idea was to get going, get some preps, and then in the military learn some stuff, right, and be able to apply myself. Then I got a little older in my 20s. I gained experience. Start thinking about leadership in my 30s, more leadership, and being financially strong enough to be 100% ready, prepared, mentally understanding as I get into my late 40s. That's right, ladies, I'm in my late 40s. You get into your late 40s, my physical capability, right, is less than what it was 10 years ago when I was competing in strongman. But my mental prowess, my strengths are going to continue to be in the development of my understanding of all the facets of what's going on out there. So my role is going to transform or morph more into leadership, more into thinking, and less of the doing as I get older. So how should our mission statement change? The roles that we take depend a lot on our mental acuity and our physical prowess. So that's how they roll. So he says, I no longer have to survive to protect my group, my kids. They have grown up or outgrown me. At some point I may become a liability. That's why we change our roles. Sure, in a soft SHTF, I have a lifetime of prepping experience that can be handed down to assist those coming up the ladder. Very good. We can take training or educational or other roles where we teach, and our experience becomes valuable to those who aren't there yet. And we help them get there faster, sidestep pitfalls and stupidity, things like that. Let's see. He says, with aging as a factor, which of us would forfeit what we had to ensure the survival of the young to continue the human equation in the aftermath? That's one of those tough questions. Very personal. Let's say I'm in a group and there's 5 of us. When there's enough food for 4 people to make it through the winter and live and into the next year. But there's 5 of us. The other 4 are, let's just say, my 2 sons and their 2 wives. Right? I'm going to take a long walk. I'm going to take a long walk. And when I walk so far that I can't walk back, then I know they're safe. Right? I'd exile myself. That way they have a chance to live. Yeah, it's called self-sacrifice. And we all do it in lots of different little ways. We sacrifice little pieces of ourselves. I've been on YouTube for 4 years talking. Thousands of videos. Talking. Little pieces of my life I put on here. My thoughts, my energy, it's important to me. We all make little gifts, little sacrifices, we add a little bit to the mosaic of life, and this part of it here in this channel in particular. It's very important. Yeah, which of us would forfeit what? Well, we like to look at people who have forfeited or sacrificed themselves, the ultimate sacrifice, in an emergency situation, in a war, where someone dies to save others. It's one of the most tragic as well as the most beautiful of human experiences, to know that you're so valuable that someone else would give that to you, and to know in your mind, if you're the one that's going to make that sacrifice, that what you do has real value and meaning, and that you've lived to that point where it's your opportunity to give, and you see the necessity of it, and in an instant you get a vision of how that's going to play out. And then of course it all goes black and quiet. What comes next is a surprise. All right, Chip Lape, or Chip Lape, says, I need a good recommendation for communication after shit hits the fan. I have a radio but no way to speak. So I don't know if Chip has had some injury to his mandible, his jaw, his tongue. I just don't know. He didn't give enough details, but he says any affordable recommendations would be much appreciated. Budget, always an issue, but needs something that will work. Chip, my number one recommendation is learn Morse code, and then you're going to be able to communicate with Morse code with others who know Morse code. People in the world of ham radio, and other government experienced people are going to know Morse. It's slow, obviously, slower than, audibly pronouncing words, but it gets the job done. You can be succinct, you can get to the point. You could even say, hey, I can't talk. I can't speak, so do Morse, please. Or just Morse, please. You don't even have to give a reason. And you'll get information. That's the best I can think of, and I don't think it's going to require a whole lot of equipment. In fact, I remember radios have that Morse button on them. Okay. Key up. John Lexicatos says, I am convinced that the next phase of those in power who oppose the Second Amendment will be to impose a federal ban on any magazine-fed firearms, with their ideal implementation being the confiscation of all these weapons and some level of financial reimbursement, as opposed to grandfathering all who currently own magazine-fed firearms. I'm going to address this before I get to the next parts. In the 1990s, we had a federal assault weapons ban. The magazines you had before that were grandfathered in. The weapons before that were grandfathered in. The idea of saying they're illegal, well, that's an ex post facto law. And it's one of those tripping hazards that the founders put in there, right? It's a concept of you can't go back in time and make something criminal. Now, on the other hand, they can just say, well, it's just illegal and that's just the way it is, so fuck you, turn them in. I don't believe they're going to do that, because you're going to have the equivalent of a social civil war, violently resisted by those who believe in their Second Amendment right. Rights don't come from government, so rights cannot be taken by government. That is all anyone needs to know on either side of the argument. If you're on the take guns away, listen, fuckers. That is a God-given right, the right to defend myself. And you, little humans, even in a majority in your democracy-fed mind, where you think that just because there's 51 of you in a group of 100, you get to tell everyone else what to do, fuck you people. The right came from God, and it is not to be taken away by other humans. Now, they understand that on their side, so they should understand we're going to have a war if they try that. That's all I'm trying to get at. That's my point. On our side, we need to go, see this thing that connects my head to my ass? It's called a spine. Grow one if you don't have it, and stand up and tell these fuckers, no way, you're not taking them. And they started this shit years ago, back when Obama was president, and it started the come and take it movement, which is basically saying, fuck you, government, and fuck you to the majority. And I'll say it again, fuck you to the majority if they think that's going to happen. However, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that fuck you is going to be necessary. Maybe other types of fuck yous, but not that one. I am anticipating a huge sweep of Republicans during this midterm election. Now, that said, that doesn't mean there's not going to be an October surprise. It's certainly not going to be Stormy Daniels, who's probably in a closet somewhere working on her next film. It's not going to be this Amoroso girl, or whatever her name is, the one who's shooting her mouth off about Trump right now. She's done. In fact, I think I got her name right. Anyways, she was the one who was outed by Piers Morgan. That's right, Piers Morgan of England, who said, she called him names. She tried shaming him. She called him gay, made fun of his penis. She did a number of things to him. Why? Because he didn't want to have sex with her on the set of some TV show. She's pretty much discredited. Or she discredited herself long ago. The thing is we still could have an October surprise. We can have an economic crash, or a fiscal crash, or a financial crash, or a monetary crash. We can have that. We certainly are in the midst of the turnover of the market. Whatever you want that turnover to be or think about. But it's turning over. It's taking a shit. Will that cause people to vote Democrat? Will they blame Trump, honestly, for all the shit that's going on when we say, hey, look, we know it's been going on. Since Obama's term, they've been doing quantitative easing. Of course we're going to have market fallout from that. Eventually, you have to pay the piper. So, I don't think the Democrats are going to win. But if they did, they've got a mountain to climb up. Because they're going to reach nothing but the business end of a barrel if they go so far as to say we're confiscating. Just how I think about it. What kind of world do you want to live in? Well, it doesn't matter what kind you want. You're going to live in the world that someone else forces you to live in. And if they're forcing you to do something you don't want, you have two choices. Acquiesce or fight. All right. So he writes, regarding this confiscation, as a contingency, I am considering getting a revolver and bolt-action rifle of the same calibers of my existing firearms in order to have some fallback ability to defend myself and my family. Do you think such a law by the federal government is possible? Yeah, any law is possible. These people are fucking morons. Or is this really an unlikely scenario? I believe it's unlikely but possible. Or at least at a federal level. My rights don't come from the federal government or the state or the local or the county. No municipality, no corporation gave me my rights. So at any level, I think it's unlikely, however, it's possible. I don't put anything past these pricks out there. As far as going to a revolver, a lever action, a bolt action, I believe it's a good idea. I would rather have 500, I'm going to pick a nice low number, 1,000 rounds of one rifle caliber for a bolt action, a lever action, or a sinister black rifle that's magazine fed. The fewer calibers you have, the more those weapons can be utilized or employed in such a way as to meet the needs of a specific mission. If you don't need max firepower and you just need to reach out and touch someone, you may want to have a bolt action rifle with a scope on it. Right? If you're concerned about the weather and dirt affecting the way your magazine fed weapon will operate, right? It's really dirty and dusty. A lever action is all manual power. You will cram, right, that bolt home and chamber that round and make it fire. I don't know, some people just like those. But I am of the belief to have as few calibers as possible and as many rounds as possible. That way you don't have let's say, a bolt action rifle in one caliber and a semi-automatic in another, and you run out of ammunition for your bolt action. So it's no longer a viable tool. It doesn't work for that mission that you have. Now you have to rely on other weapons to try and fulfill that mission, and they're going to be less effective for you. But if the automatic and the bolt action both take the same caliber, you're golden as you're going to get when shit is hitting the fan. All right, so we're going to finish up with Orlando Ramos. Dabu77. It's Dabu77. Posted a report of the military conducting yet another drill called Liberty Eclipse. I'd like to get your perspective on this either personally or in a video. Hello, video! And I'm sure others would like to hear your input on this. Hope all is well, brother. Thank you, Brother Ramos. I'm not super familiar with Liberty Eclipse. I don't like the government preparing for all these nightmare scenarios when it seems like their mission, their goal, is not to maintain liberty and the government, liberty and the lives of the people, but rather they're concerned about continuity of government and they're concerned about themselves. So I don't like these things, right? I'm suspicious of them, naturally. I'm suspicious because of my experience. So we're going to call it quits right there, and I'm going to wish you guys a very good day. Keep your eyes open. Remember, chance favors the prepared mind. Is yours. I'll talk to you all soon. Godspeed, God bless, and Semper Fi.